Hi everyone, Marc Mosimann from NEUROSPEC here in Switzerland. As you can see, I've set up the ActiView, I've set up the USB receiver, all running on a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, it doesn't really matter. It runs on an M1 processor, it runs Big Sur. It's a huge challenge to a lot of people out there trying to run this thing on a Mac. We have solved it, we have a workaround, works beautifully. I will tell you step by step how this will work. So please bear with us for about 20 minutes and you will be able to run this thing on your own MacBook, running Big Sur, later on in the fall on macOS Monterey, which is coming out. So I hope you're having fun and let's get on with the steps that I'm trying to show you now how to install it. This is my MacBook Air. Here are the system specifications. I'm running macOS Big Sur, which is version 11.4. This all runs on an M1, which is the new Apple silicon chip. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM. I think this system resembles a lot of systems that customers may use to run the ActiView. So I'm going to show you how this runs with my runtime engine and ActiView software. We're just looking quickly at the previous versions and the versions that are still compatible to run the runtime engine 2016 and ActiView. So basically, if you had still El Capitan, if you had Sierra, if you had High Sierra, all the way to Mojave, which is macOS 10.14, you would find no reasons why not use the runtime engine 2016 and ActiView from BioSemi's Mac section of the website for downloading software. However, you have probably already run into issues with Catalina and obviously now with Big Sur, which is the OS version 11. Unless you constantly upgraded from Yosemite to El Capitan to Sierra to High Sierra to Mojave and then to Catalina using the 2016 runtime engine already installed on Yosemite or El Capitan, that would move forward well. We've tried it and it actually works. Whether moving that forward to Big Sur, I am unsure because I haven't tried. I would, like I said, not suggest going that way. So what I would do is really remove the runtime engine 2016 for Mac along with ActiView, get rid of it and do it the way I'm going to show you in the next steps. What we need to do first is we need to go to Safari. We hit the address Parallels and there we can see that we can download a Parallels Desktop version for Mac, running and supporting the Apple M1 chip beautifully. And we can download a perpetual license, which will cost you around €100, but will support the runtime engine and will support obviously ActiView wonderfully, as we'll show you in the next step. We'll go to Safari. We will go to Windows, Preview ARM. And the first entry that allows us to access that special Windows version called Windows 10 Client ARM64. Once this page is loaded, all we need to do is we need to log into our account. And from there, we can just download the Windows Client ARM64 version right here. So instead of doing that, I've already done it. So if I go to my downloads and I go to my files, I can see I've downloaded Windows 10 inside the preview ARM64, which is a VHDX file. We have all the files on our MacBook. We can start to install Parallels, which is pretty straightforward. Once Parallels is installed, you'll get a little icon on the bottom on the Mac like this. So we just click on that one there. Obviously, Windows has already been installed on this MacBook Air of mine, but I'm going to show you how to do it if you hadn't. So you go to Data, or file, I think it's called in English. You go to New. Here it tells you things about the M1 processor, the do's and the can't do's. We just carry on to continue. Down here you can also download Ubuntu for Linux, Fedora, Debian, Kali Linux, you name it. You can download it here. However, we've already downloaded a Windows Preview 10 ARM version. So all we need to do is click on this button here. We say continue, and it will automatically find the file that we've downloaded previously. So all we need to do is basically install Windows 10 just as we would install Windows 10 on a standard machine. And this also takes a little less time than it normally does for another Windows version. And once we've finished, I will show you the next steps. Configure our virtual machine. This is done by going to these little double red dots, which is Parallels. Go to Control Center. And in Control Center, you'll find those virtual machines you installed. We've only installed Windows 10. So there's a little cogwheel which you can push. And there are some selections which you can go through. But the one that's really important is in General. And in General, it lets you configure the virtual machines for two modes. One mode is called Productivity. This is used for text editor programs, Excel, spreadsheets, financial software, emails, if you want to serve, whatever. I wouldn't choose that, especially if our intention is to connect an ActiveView, especially the ActiveView High Speed, especially the ActiveView High Speed and ABR. So basically that would run 4 times faster than a standard ActiveView. And so you really want to toggle this to games only mode. Now I know that you're probably not going to play games on this MacBook Air or on this particular virtual operating system. However, games only also means that this will optimize the virtual machine to the absolute max. So when we click games only and we say OK to this, and we go to hardware and we go to CPU and RAM, then only then it allows us to choose to run 4 processors. And truly, we've tried to run the ActiveView High Speed on speed mode 3 using 2 processors. It will just get stuck and not continue to work. But on 4 processors, it will run really beautifully. Make sure you keep the RAM to the maximum, which is 8,192 megabytes or 8 gigabytes. My system here, my MacBook Air, has a total installed of 16 gigabytes. If you had one with 32 gigabytes, it will let you choose 16 gigabytes of RAM. However, 8 gigabytes will run the ActiveView even in high speed appropriately. It will run it well. The last thing that you should have a look at is in security, something's called Isolate Mac from Windows. Now there needs to be a click in there definitely, because if you don't and you install the runtime engine on the Windows, what will happen is all the files will go to your Mac drive. And when you then try to run ActiView, it will return a myriad of messages saying, I can't find the VI file here, I can't find that VI file. So all the VI files are hidden on another drive, on the Macintosh drive, and that is because you're not isolating the Mac from Windows. So putting a click here will isolate Mac from Windows and will allow you an installation and running ActiView just like on a normal PC. One last thing you want to do is when you install the USB receiver to your Mac, and you can do this by an adapter between USB 3 and USB-C, works absolutely wonderful. What you then need to do is, instead of always having to disconnect and connect the USB driver at every new acquisition, go to USB Bluetooth settings, go to USB connection settings, and when you have the USB receiver connected, you can press on the plus. It will automatically find this particular USB gadget that is currently connected, which is our receiver 2. You just say yes, and you can finalize everything by just clicking the little lock. Now all those settings are locked in now. There's no more changes you need to do. And that actually finalizes the settings, and we can now continue to go to Windows and do all the rest that we're planning to do today. Let's run Windows. So what we do is we go to Parallels, we hit the button, and this will come up. So all you need to do is really start Windows, just like that. Enter your credentials, the password, everything that you set up before. Once this is nicely running, as you can see, it looks just like Windows does, except with these buttons on the top here. What I would always do is suggest you go to Settings, and in Settings, first of all, you update your Windows. Try and get any updates that are available down to your system. Reboot your computer a couple of times until it's all updated to the latest upgrades that there are. Once you've done this, make sure to activate your Windows. Mine's already been activated by my Windows 10 Pro license that I have with Microsoft. Do any other settings that you normally do. There are more settings that you may want to do. You want to add a mouse probably, or do all the settings that you would normally do, like I have done. I have my folders here, my system configurator here, etc. It's all in German. Hopefully you can see that I've done it also that I can actually use Windows standalone if I wanted as well. So that's done. We're going to step number 7. We go to one of the browsers that we select. We go to the BioSemi website. We hit the download folder. Now remember, anything that says ActiView for Mac, even the runtime engine that supports Mac, etc., we're not going to use, because remember, these really only work to about High Sierra or Mojave. Anything beyond that, if you have a new Mac and you try to download this and download this, it just won't work. So don't even go there. Select on the Windows, the runtime engine 2016, which is a Windows 10 64-bit runtime engine, and the resizable ActiView version 8.12. That 8.12 version is beautiful because it also gives you the latest cat maps. It will give you full-size capability. If you run if you run the Mac software previously on a MacBook 15-inch, that would actually fill your window beautiful. But on a 16-inch or on a 13-inch, you'll be already struggling. So this version here from BioSemi programmed here, that will support all your different display sizes because it's resizable. So that's really nice. So download this file, and that should really give you all that you need. Downloaded the runtime engine for Windows along with ActiView 8.12. So they should be found in our download directory, which they are. This is the zipped version of the runtime engine, and this is the zipped version of ActiView 8.12. So we've unzipped it. You go to find the setup file. So just set up the runtime engine 2016 on your Windows partition or virtual machine. Once done, reboot as you would when you install it on a normal PC. Go back to downloads, then find your actual application 8.12. I sent this to my desktop so I can have access without going to my folders there. And so basically I have beautifully set up my Windows system to run ActiView 8.12. We have moved ActiView 8.12 onto our desktop, so now let's connect the USB receiver via the USB-C port, and let's start ActiView. Let's run ActiView in full size mode and click the start button to start acquiring the data. In fact, as you can now see also that I'm running on speed mode 3, which reflects actually speed mode 13. It runs on 16 kilohertz on a bandwidth of 3334 hertz. When I go back to monopolar display, I can select the 64 channels that I'm using. When I go all the way down to 5 microvolt, I can see the little scribble on every trace, indicating that I'm using 64 channels. In fact, I'm using 8 channels on the side, so I've got 64 plus 8 plus sensors, and all actually running. I'm just gonna make that a little bit nicer looking. So I've got 64 channels of EEG, I've got 8 channels of EXG, I've got the sensors running, all on speed mode 3. Again, this displays speed mode 13, which of course doesn't exist on the speed mode wheel, but we're running on high speed, 16,000 hertz or 16,000 hertz, 16 kilohertz on 3.5 kilohertz of a bandwidth. Now let's introduce some triggers. I'm actually running a Lenovo side by side, and I'm sending over to my Active2 via an MMB trigger box. I'm sending 100 triggers with an stimulus interval of 100 milliseconds, which would look like this. We're getting a 255 every 100 milliseconds, so that's 10 pulses per second over 100. Stopped now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run this for about an hour, and this time I'm going to input 10,000 triggers at 1000 millisecond interstimulus interval, which gives us a trigger every second. And we're going to let this run for about 1 hour to see whether on high speed this system is coping with the amount of data coming through to the Active2. Here we go. So I'm going to let this run for about an hour. I will just come back with an update in about 50 minutes from now. All right. So the Active2 is running. It's delivering high-speed data via the USB receiver. That's the new USB receiver from BioSemi. And that all goes via USB 2 to USB-C adapter into my MacBook, which is plotting nicely. We're getting triggers. It's a 8-bit trigger down the bottom. Information coming via the beautiful MMB trigger box and the Lenovo, which is currently having a black screen. That's because it's sending triggers. It's just sending 5 volts down 8 lines. So it's a 255 marker file or an 8-bit file coming into my Active2 software running on a MacBook Air with the latest operating system Big Sur and on a M1 processor. And as you can see, it's still running nicely. It's been going for about 10 minutes now. And the little speed dial on the right hand side showing there is no delays. It's coming through. We still have 4.6 gigabytes of RAM left over to run. So this thing is running currently on about 12 gigabytes of use. But that's fine. I think for that application, we can say it's all being nicely supported. We have now recorded 2,200 seconds, which is about 40 minutes, give and take. And it looks like it's saving the file beautifully down to our disk. If I just minimize that, I will see that the PDF file is currently being collected, so we can't actually see how big it is. But I'm guessing it's probably about 5 gigabytes or something in size. So it looks good. We have also still our monopolar display going. We can actually remove the band pass and have the filters wide open. This is all for view, by the way. Everything we change on this side will not impact the way we're saving the file. Over here we can see we are saving currently 999,000 megabytes until a new file is added with this little click. This can go on for 9,999,000 seconds. We're collecting at 16 kilohertz sampling with a bandwidth of 1/5 of that, which is 3,300 hertz. We're collecting 73 plus 1 channels. We have collected 8 gigabytes, that's what it says here, and we're up to about 50 minutes now. And I still have enough free hard disk space. Again, this is, when you look at the little speed dial down here, this goes 4 times as fast as it would normally go on a normal Active 2, not running on high speed, basically running, yes, on 16 kilohertz, but not high speed enabled. So that's not speed mode 3, but speed mode 7, which would probably turn 4 times slower than this. But we're really pushing a lot of data through the system to make sure this is working on our virtual machine. And I think we can prove that this is happening, our offsets, our sensors, and again running on speed mode 3, displaying speed mode 13 in ActiView. This is obviously my Mark II 64 channel EEG system from BioSemi. So I think this finalizes our last snapshot on what we've done. Again, we can run Windows version nicely through Parallels on a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, MacBook 15-inch, even an older one, with Big Sur. This is an M1 processor. It's running wonderfully. We can even go to coherence mode. Actually, I haven't shown you this. This is nice. Coherence mode means it's actually just showing the Active 2 running, just the application basically running on the Mac. So this is nice. We can still continue to work on the Mac if you wanted. We can go to anything you want to go to. So basically this is all running, and my Active 2 is still running on the back without much issues. So if you don't like this mode, you can switch back to normal mode. So this is not the coherence mode. Obviously we can run Windows full screen, and so that's all what we can do. So this should finalize what we've so far discussed. I hope you liked this. Please join our channel and hit it with a like. That would really help us also for all the effort we're putting into this. Many thanks and have a great day.